Good afternoon, everyone. This is Kristen Schloss from Razorleaf, and welcome to Tech Tuesday. I will be your moderator today. We're excited to have you join us for our second session of Tech Tuesday, What's New from Aras, a Razorleaf webinar series. Razorleaf will be presenting every month to the Aras community to share the latest release information for Aras Innovator. In addition, our team will also provide you with the latest direction, updates, and features on our Razorleaf products. So today, I'm pleased to introduce our speakers. First, Rodney Coffey, who is our practice manager for Aras. Second, Milan Obradovic, who is our pre-sales architect for Aras. And lastly, we have a special guest today, Tim Noce, Razorleaf's Vice President of Product. But before I start the presentation, just a few housekeeping notes. First, the webinar will be recorded, and we will be sharing this recording with all participants. Also, during the webinar, we value your opinions and encourage any questions or comments. So to ask a question, just simply enter them into the panel at any time. We will have a Q&A session at the conclusion of each section. So we'll be doing Aras first, and then we'll be talking about Clover, the platform, second. So now I'm going to hand it over to Rodney.
Thanks, Kristen. Yeah, so as Kristen said, this is our second Tech Tuesday. So today we kind of set us up with an agenda here. Today we're going to take a look at what's in the new Aras 15 release. Prior to that, 15 is the first release that we went through from 14 under the new release structure. So Milan is going to actually walk through and give us a pretty good example of what that upgrade looks like. We've been going through on all our internal servers, environments, things here, and going through that. So we thought that would be a good thing to share today. Along with that, we'll also take a look at the new features that Aras released for Innovator 15. And then we thought it'd be a good idea, as you know, there will be certain Tech Tuesdays where we'll talk about as Aras has bigger releases within this new release structure. Just like the last release, we'll see some minor release things come through today. So what we thought we'd do is also piggyback on that and show some new things that we're releasing alongside those Aras Innovator releases and the Razorleaf product. So like Kristen said, we invited our VP of Product, Tim Noce, here today to talk a little bit about what's going on with the Clover platform. So integrate it, collect it, share it, all those things that we've been talking to our customers about. So with that, we will dive right in. We are going to do one thing a little different than what we did last Tech Tuesday. We're going to split, because we sort of have two disparate topics. We have the Aras Innovator, what's new and update, and then the Clover pieces. We're going to break in the middle for questions today. So if you have questions about anything Milan covers, we'll cover those directly after he's done before we transition over to Tim. So with that, I'll jump into our first topic for today, which is going to be the new Aras upgrade process. So before I hand it over to Milan, you're going to get to see this live. He's going to walk you through it. I just wanted to give a reminder of what we talked about last time. So if you remember, if you're on, I know we've got a lot of customers, Aras subscribers on the line today. If you are actively on 11, we were working really hard to get you up to 12, and now we're working really hard to get you up to 14. So anything previous to 14, we are going to still go through the same release process. You guys are going to log a ticket. Our Razorleaf support team is then going to work with you to get Aras lined up, come up with an upgrade schedule, and get you upgraded. What you will see today is the first on, let's say, the new release structure, the new platform, right? So you're going to see Milan actually take a 14 environment that we had for the last Tech Tuesday, and we're going to roll that up to 15. And this process is the same. We won't show this every Tech Tuesday, because this process should be the same process you're following for 16, 17, 18, so on and so forth under the new Aras structure. So with that, I am going to hand it off to Milan to kind of walk through the release upgrade process, let you guys know where you can find the information for that, and show it to you more or less live. So off to you, Milan.
All right, thanks, Rodney. If you don't start, I just want to give a quick update or quick run through of information, what is necessary for the update. So all upgrades are going to be handled through the Aras update utility, and that could just be downloaded directly from Aras's website from their support page. You'll also need the new patch, which can be downloaded from the Aras FTP site, and that can be found from the following directory. So you'll go into Innovator latest release, release 15, go into the 15 CD image, and within the utilities folder, you'll be able to find the 15 patch file. So the basic procedure for deployment of new functionality should be followed. So basically disconnect all users from your database, create backups to ensure if anything goes wrong, you'll be able to recover from that point and try once again. So with that, I will hop into our little demo video that I've prepared of the upgrade process. So with Aras moving to this new SaaS-like approach, there's some major changes to how they handle new releases. And since they're now foregoing major releases and moving to new updates every 5 weeks, these releases are now able to be installed by the user. So the purpose of this demonstration is just to show how the update process works and to highlight the major points of this process. So let's ensure this is playing. Skip ahead a little bit. So the first thing you want to do is ensure that the current version of Innovator we are running is release 14 build 14.0.0.33343. As you can see right there, it is apparent on the screen. And that could just be done by clicking on the user menu icon at the top right of your screen and selecting About. The next thing we're doing here is doing a wildcard search for all variables that begin with version. And we just want to ensure that version major is 14, version minor is 0, version service pack is none, and version service update is 0. If these are not correct, you'll have to contact Aras support to get you up to speed and make sure everything is correct. But if they are, you'll be ready to move on to your next steps. So you can log out of your Aras Innovator instance at this point, and we'll head to our desktop here. So the first thing you'll need to check is that you have the Aras update utility installed, which is right there on our screen. You'll also need the new patch. You can also find this from the directory that will come up on your screen here. Also the one that showed up on the PowerPoint slide, just one more time for review. And then next you'll need to notify your users that the system will be down. They should log out of the system before the process begins and do all necessary backups in case the upgrade fails. So at this point, all users need to be disconnected from the database. This can be done by changing the database connection string in Innovator server config.xml and restarting your IIS using an IIS reset command in command prompt. So you see here, that is a string that needs to be modified. It's as simple as adding a X before DB connection and saving. And then you can open up command prompt, type in IIS reset, and the reset process will begin. Takes a couple seconds, but we could skip ahead a little bit here. All right, so once everyone's disconnected, you'll need to reconnect to the database in order to get the update into Aras. So you can save that again and run the IIS reset one more time. We'll skip ahead a couple seconds to skip that. Okay, so at this point, you should be ready to perform your upgrade. So to begin, you're going to need to unzip your patch folder, but that's already been done in our demo server here. So now we can open up the Aras update utility, which will take a second to open. So once that opens up, you'll go to local packages and you'll need to add a package reference. So essentially you just need to go to the directory where you have the patch stored. In this case, it was on our desktop, so I can just select the folder, then select install. So now we can pick which components we intend to upgrade. So in this instance of Aras, we do not have the conversion server or agent service installed. So we can just deselect those. You'll make sure you select detail logging so you can see when and where upgrades go wrong. You can correct those issues. So in this top field here, you'll need the path to your installed server. And that'll essentially just be the code tree to your Aras install. And then for the OAuth server URL, in our case, the server is http://localhost innovator 14 server. So you'll see that typed in there. That'll change dependent on obviously your own install of Aras. And when you're doing your upgrade, you'll want to log in as super user, which is an out-of-the-box user that is used for updates and installs. The login will be root, and the out-of-the-box password is innovator, but that could also be modified as by your administrator. So we'll type all this in, ensure everything is correct, and once you're sure, you can select install. And you'll be prompted with your update process beginning. In a sec. So I skipped the time that it takes to install the upgrade. No need to watch a progress bar run. But after a few minutes, the installation will be complete. And upon completion, you can log into your Innovator instance and go back to that About menu that we discussed earlier on. And that is where you can verify that you are now currently on release 15. So as you can see, the upgrade process doesn't have too many steps to it. It's similar to implementing new functionality that you've done maybe in the past. But there you go, you see release 15 is now installed. So the steps to complete it are pretty short. Aras has very good documentation that they provided in the CD image. If you follow that, use the video as reference, you should be good to go for your upgrades. So moving on from that. Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, just to comment real quick too. So our plan for the Tech Tuesdays is to take the content that we use here and then transfer those over to a blog. So the video that Milan cut for this upgrade process, obviously we kind of cut through it here as we were describing it, but that entire video, the whole process will be up on the blog site here shortly as well. So our goal is to try to push more content out for you guys to be able to use and support through throughout these things, these topics we're covering. So just wanted to note that.
Yeah, thanks, Rodney. So now we can move on to new Aras 15 enhancements that are coming in 15. So Aras is continuing their push towards federation services. So in Innovator 14, Aras added the capability to make text properties federated and also implemented a flag on properties to indicate that they're federated. So now they're expanding that and allowing integer properties to be federated, and more properties will also be coming in the future to be federated. They're also continuing to improve navigation modeling and continuing their enhancements to the configurable user interface. These are primarily at this point in the table of contents editor. If you were with us on our last webinar, I demoed a couple of those features and we'll get back into it today. So now you can add custom HTML pages and item type forms that you can now link these directly to your table of contents. So with this, I'm going to hop over to our demo database and kind of show a couple of these new features. Should be there. There we go. Should be seeing our demo database now. And to start, I want to begin with the table of contents editor enhancements. So the first thing I want to get into is the ability to add forms. So if you have, say, a form that you need to edit, configure very often, you can link that directly to your table of contents. So in this case, it's as simple as executing a blue bar search, selecting your form. You can select the custom icon to make it a little more apparent to your users. In this case, we'll use this box for an example. You can set who has access to modify this form. In this case, we can use world. Save that and it will show up on our table of contents here. And another cool feature that was added was the ability to add custom HTML pages. So these HTML pages need to be stored within your Innovator code tree in order for this to work. I believe the directory is, you go Innovator, client, and then scripts. So we can go into that code tree real quick to show where I stored this HTML I want to use. So you go to your Aras code tree, install, Innovator, client, scripts, and we have all the HTML documents that are included out of the box with Aras, and also this hello HTML that I'll be using to add to our table of contents. So to start, you'll want to specify the name of your document. These parameters are optional, but they are just passed to the HTML document if they're necessary for it to be displayed. In this case, we don't need them. We can customize an icon here as well. In this case, we'll use a wave since we're saying hello. And then you can also change the name of this, how you want to display it as. So set who can view it. We want everyone to be able to see this, so we can set world, then save that, and that'll show up on your table of contents. So if we click on, say, our custom HTML, we'll get our thank you for attending message that I wrote real quick in HTML for this. And then also for the part form, if we select that, it'll open up a part form immediately for you. One final thing that I wanted to go into is just to show the continued federation, just by sampling a custom property here. So just name that sample real quick, sample. And we could just select this federated flag here to indicate that it will be a federated property. With that, we'll go back to the deck here. Move on to any questions that you may have.
Great, thank you, Rodney and Milan. Great information and demo on the upgrade process. Before we start our Aras Q&A session, just a reminder for everyone, if you have any questions, please enter them into the panel. And it looks like we have a couple. The first one, will the upgrade process be the same for future versions of Aras?
Yeah, so for the most part, the process should follow similar steps. In the future, I know in upcoming releases, Aras will be doing upgrades to 3D visualization, Office connector. So those, if you have those components, the main difference will be checking the upgrade in the Aras upgrade utility that you intend to update those.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Milan. Another question here. What are some of the issues you ran into during the upgrade process?
Yeah, so overall, the upgrade process was pretty smooth. I was able to complete a full upgrade, I think, on my second try. The main thing you'll want to note is make sure that you select everything that you intend to upgrade and make sure that if you select it, it's something that you are using. So when I first tried to run the upgrade, I selected the conversion server and agent service to be upgraded, but they weren't installed in our instance. So it would flag an error and boot me out of the upgrade process just because they were upgrading something that doesn't exist. But outside of that, the upgrade process was pretty smooth for me and didn't run into too many hiccups.
Great information. So next question we have here is, what is the best way to merge all my customizations during update, especially the ones to existing features?
Let me ask a clarifying question. I think what that question is relating to is all the customization slash development wise, right? So we're talking about a custom package. So in the new release model, I know we've had to do some of those types of things in the past. So when we were going from 10 to 11 or 11 to 12, in the new release model, I don't believe you'll have to do that. I don't think we'll have to take all the customization, all the custom development, as long as it's in the production environment, and then port it over to a new environment. So 14 up, that should not be an issue. Previous versions, 11 to 12, 12 to 14, support will continue to assist with that.
Okay, great. Thank you, Rodney.
Okay.
And hopefully that answered that individual's question. If not, we can definitely contact you for additional information.
Yeah, let's mark that one for follow-up, because I know in a future Tech Tuesday, or our user group, we have talked about taking on the topic of packaging and development, because we know that that is, you know, a constant challenge for our customers.
That's great. So I think for this particular, the Aras Q&A session, if there's anything else, please, you know, definitely put a question in, and we can always answer it at the end or get back to you. But I'm going to turn this over to Rodney for our second half of our webinar, which talks about Razorleaf's Clover platform. So I'll hand it over to you, Rodney.
Perfect. So yeah, just to transition and kind of tee off the second part. So, you know, we had a little time left and we talked a little bit about manufacturing suite and what we were doing around Clover. I thought it would be a good use of the time we have in this session to make sure we're keeping, you know, we have an ever-growing customer base of Razorleaf products around Aras. So we've got, you know, a handful of customers who have decided to implement Collect It just in the last 6 months, as well as some manufacturing suite customers across our normal aerospace. So I thought it would be a good idea to mix in some of the updates, some of the things that are going on that side of the Aras product world as well. And then, like I said, we'll kind of flex that in and out as we have new updates. But it's been a while since we kind of came to the masses with the Clover message. So I thought today would be a good opportunity to do that. So with that, I'll hand it over. Again, we're going to kind of intro, talk about some features. If you guys have questions, this is a great time to get more information about Clover. And of course, we can always follow up afterward. But with that, I'm going to hand it off to Tim Noce, our VP of Product.
Thanks, Rodney. You know, this is my first Tech Tuesday. I think everybody's got twice as much experience as me. So, you know, I wanted to start with a kind of high level about what's been going around the Clover platform itself. Notice we're not just calling our integration product Clover anymore. So we made some changes in the last year on how we're presenting our platform and why. And I'll go through some of that. And then I am going to jump into Integrate a little bit. Some of this is kind of sales and marketing high level. There is some tech in here. I would invite, if you're interested in more detailed architectural discussions, under the covers kind of things, roadmap kind of things, please put that in chat and let us know so that we can tune these as we move forward to your desires for hearing additional details about about the Clover platform or any of the products. So, you know, we'll cover this first. So, you know, what is Clover? Our message here has changed, right? And it's changed primarily based on your ever-changing use cases. Most of you that have been around a while with Razorleaf know that we try and complement the Aras Innovator platform, surround it with things that will help you with your business cases that are not necessarily native to PLM. And that was integration 10 years ago, right? But that changed. It changed from integration to migration, you know, adding in some migration, you know, orchestrating around that and connecting to existing enterprise service bus platforms and those kind of things. You know, all those different types of use cases showed up over the years. And as such, we changed how we were positioning our not only positioning our platform, but what we were including with each of these pieces. So the Clover as an integration tool message has kind of slipped away. And what we did was really leverage the core set of job platform features of business rules processing and those kind of things that I'm going to go through, and split it out into use case defined products. So in this case, you know, we have IntegrateIT, which is the traditional Clover platform that some of you have been using for years. And that, you know, that connects system A to system B, right? And moves files and data back and forth as part of your workflow processes. We have MigrateIT, which is really a similar engine, but focused on batch processing. So doing things differently, potentially skipping APIs and handling large sets of data for either a system migration or upgrade use case, or even, you know, importing a project when you get project files from a customer, those kind of things. We've got PassIT, which is primarily an integration platform as well, but it's designed to really connect and optimize when using something like a 𝙍𝙀𝘼 or a MuleSoft Anypoint or a Infor Ion, and leveraging those API-based messaging platforms to interface with other systems. And then the last piece is pretty exciting. We announced this past year, and that is CollectIt. And that gives us a way of looking into PLM from a simple web interface, extracting files and data and packaging them up for bid specs or technical data package deliveries for clients, those kind of things, including being able to take metadata that's on the data card and turn it into viewable files. So with CollectIt, we really took our job processing, our application development engine, which was Clover, the platform, and put a layered application on top of it. And you're going to see more of those throughout this year and in coming years. Now I just have to figure out how to move the slides. There we go. Okay. So in all of that, you know, how is Clover different from a Boomi or an Anypoint or any of those dozen jitter bits or all those kind of things that are out there in the marketplace today? And it's primarily 4 or 5 or 6 reasons, right? Number one, it's fully extensible. So I've never had to say no to can Clover do this, because it's a .NET based code processing engine. Anything you can do in .NET, you can turn into a Clover plugin and run it in Clover. So it is completely extensible. We haven't run into anything in the last 10 years or so of using this platform that we've had to say no to. The second is that it's really business rules logic driven. Businesses change, those business rules, how you process data changes, and having the Clover platform in the middle and running those business rules allows you a great deal of flexibility as your business changes and you need to change the way things are done, as you introduce new systems or twilight old systems, those kind of things. It gives you the ability to really flexibly adapt to those business changes. Third, this was built by PLM consultants and PLM developers, right? This wasn't an idea we had. This is to come to market with yet another integration platform. This was out of necessity, doing PLM type things that we've built the platform over the years. It's really focused on being able to process hierarchical and relational information in PLM, interface to PLM, maintain the fidelity of the data in PLM, and to put PLM at the core of your business process workflows while extending it out to the other pieces of the enterprise, whether those are PDM, CRM, ERP, and all those other systems you might have. Clover platform offloads job processing. So there's times when you just don't want to run some type of a big job on your transaction processing system, whether that's your PLM system in Aras Innovator or on your ERP system, SAP or NetSuite, or you just don't want those endpoints to have to process a lot of a heavy workload, parsing through BOMs and downloading files and maybe converting those files to a viewable rendition. You don't want that there, right? So Clover allows you to offload some of that. It's fully extensible using C# managed code. So there's no Mule script or Jitter script or Groovy or all of these different vendor specific languages. You can get a C# developer. They're not hard to find, and you can extend Clover. And then lastly, I mentioned with CollectIt that we're layering our future products using this as an application development engine. So it was one of its original intents was rapid application development by centralizing libraries and common functionality, things like logging and queuing and all those types of things that you need to do with every piece of software you develop. It provides all that and can be used as a really great foundational layer for additional applications, whether you're developing them or whether we're layering our products on top of the platform. So with that, I'll talk about IntegrateIT a little bit. I hope you're putting in questions. I will spend some time at the end. Try and keep the time. They told me I only had 10 or 15 minutes, and as many of you probably know, I could take all day talking about this stuff. So I'll go through Integrate It at a high level. In future Tech Tuesdays, we can talk about, we could talk in more detail about the architecture of Integrate It, the platform itself, collect it and how it works. I'd be happy to do demos and those kind of things. Today, we'll just kind of cover the old Clover product, now Clover Integrate It, and what its capabilities are. So first off, you know, what is the integration meant to do, right? And that's really connect your PLM as the central point of data and file management with other systems. You know, really giving you a cross enterprise product lifecycle, right? Being able to exchange the files, the data with other systems and other people that don't have access to PLM in real time or as they need it. What's it commonly used for? You know, this is 90% of the time, the integrations are part and BOM sharing, right? Stopping the need for people to go to engineers and ask them for information about parts and BOMs and the files and CAD associated with those. So when you create parts or assemblies in PLM, you want to push those to ERP, you might want to get some data back, those kind of things. Moving all types of files downstream, whether that's to common libraries or CAD files down to manufacturing or those kind of things. You know, it's a very common request for us to move files as well. Designing a simple change management workflow that extends beyond PLM. So introducing, you're having your design team use PDM to do a design, and then have it flow into PLM for all the product management operations, and then into ERP for all the financial operations, and having a workflow across all three systems. That's pretty common. Publishing product data and renditions to central libraries, I mentioned. Triggering different things in PLM. So being able to start in a CRM system and log an issue and have that start a change process workflow or something like that. So those are the most common integrated use cases. So now we're going to get into a little bit of the tech underneath. I mentioned some of these, but I'll go through them in a little more detail here. So job queuing and management. In any integration, you need to know that the integration completes or fails, right? And that's one of the core services in the Clover platform. Everything is queued, and to ensure that the job is handled or fails and somebody's notified. So no data loss, right? 100% fidelity to make sure that the integration is working properly. You don't want out of sync systems and surprises when data doesn't match between systems. It incorporates a really nifty job processing distribution mechanism that allows you to add job servers for scalability or for long running tasks. So you can create server groups of multiple servers that have common capabilities and do particular things to scale up, or you could scale out or scale geographically by distributing job processing servers on other systems around the globe and keeping processing local to that geography. We pre-build just a ton of libraries. So, you don't have to write, this is not a zero code platform. If zero code platforms truly exist, it's a light code platform, and we provide a bunch of different libraries for different things, whether those be standard system type things that saving files to disk or processing XML or connecting to FTP, sending an HTML email message. All those types of things that we provide in these libraries and our Clover plugins can be put into your job sequence to leverage that capability without having to develop that. It's a very flexible architecture. So if your environment is extremely complex, multiple systems need to be integrated, data needs to be consolidated, or data needs to be broken apart and distributed and needs to go around the globe and all that can be done. It's an extremely flexible architecture. This is one of my favorites, is that it provides a level of abstraction from endpoints. It's frustrating when SolidWorks comes out with an update and you have to wait until there's a connector available to update. By abstracting, by using Clover and abstracting those endpoints, we can keep the system connected. We can test new APIs. We can roll over jobs with near zero downtime by pushing a button, and move from one platform to the next, or one platform, one integration to the next integration with an upgraded platform. And then lastly, but not least, the ability to schedule complex jobs. We had one customer ask for, packaging up 200 gigabytes of files and sending them across the slow WAN link. We can take those complex jobs, run them in off hours in a scheduled window, and make sure that it's not interrupting any kind of system or network operations during business hours. So some common publishing events here. First off, you can have as many jobs as you need on the Clover platform. So if you're a change release or a part release or an assembly release has different parameters around how it needs to be handled, those types of differences can be handled by different jobs. So it's pretty scalable and flexible. It's very lightweight triggering out of Aras. If you can send it an event identifier saying this happened, right? A change release or a part release or whatever that event is in Aras, along with an identifier, the Clover job can then reach back in and get any of the files, data, information it needs to continue processing and make that integration fully featured. Those triggering events, commonly through automated workflow or through button, through action, just like is done with most code in Innovator. And it can accommodate any kind of types of alternate publishing methods events, whether that's watching a file system for a change. For example, an SAP report is saved out to a file system, and that data needs to get back into PLM. It can watch that file system, and when that report shows up, process it. It can watch message queues if you're using message queues, and for inbound, so that you don't have to open ports in your firewall, we can use message relays from SaaS systems and systems outside of your on-premises or secure network environment. Changing files and data. This is a nuance, and you'll hear different things from different vendors, right? But there was this big push towards enterprise service bus and ESB 5 years or so ago, from 5 to 10 years ago, right? But it presented a difficult challenge, and you had to canonize your data, right? And we're still stuck on this and struggling, because a PO might be a PO, but when you get into engineering data, the structure of a product, it can vary significantly between products, right? Even an individual part having different types of attributes. An electrical component is not the same as a mechanical component, and being asked to canonize that structure is difficult. So by having a piece of middleware, we can do appropriate mappings between all the different systems without having to have a standard object definition. And that's a real benefit to using a middleware platform like this. I mentioned this before, any data that you get from an individual system can be distributed. You can get data from multiple systems and consolidate, and the right information can be parsed and delivered to the right endpoint at any given time. And it doesn't have to be the entire set of information. Those other systems typically like to have some big, huge message. We like lightweight, targeted messages that say, that provide only the necessary information. CAD and Office files we modified. We've actually used the platform and its job processing capabilities in .NET to open a SolidWorks file, to extract information from the file itself that's not stored in, say, PDM Professional, and include that in the data set when we're shaping the payload to the downstream system. So, there really aren't too many different types of things you can't do. And I already mentioned that large transformation jobs, whether those are creating renditions or extracting step files or making 3D PDFs, whatever you can come up with, those can be scheduled in off hours. So how's this work at a basic high level? It's pretty simple. So something happens in Innovator, in this case, a BOM release off of a change workflow, say. The change number is sent to a listener service, a CLOVER listener service, that invokes an event in the CLOVER central platform. The job is queued, all of the job handling parameters added. The central job server is responsible for a number of things, including managing the distributed job servers and checking their availability, logging success or failure, and making sure that you have a success path or a notification to somebody that there was a failure, and coordinating all of that. So in my simple example here, CLOVER will invoke a job processor that it's responsible for doing the work, right? It's going to go back and get all the data it needs, get all the files it needs. It's going to shape that data, transform that data, make sure the data conforms to the rules of the destination system, all those types of things that you might have the job processor do. In my case here, we reach back into Innovator through the web service API and get the attributes and their values, the BOM and ECO data, and create a data package to send to some other endpoint, right? And you might pass the part, the BOM, the ECO files, vendor information is pretty common, vendor item information, and it can go just about anywhere. So, whether you're passing it down to SAP, which is common, or NetSuite or PeopleSoft or another ERP system, great, that's the most common use case. But if you need to drop something on Box or create a SharePoint library or directly put some data into SQL Server for business analysis, or send some data out to Smartsheet because that's what you're using for shared project manager, yes, the answer is yes. CLOVER can connect to pretty much any type of web service API, any file system, any type of database endpoint, all those kind of things. Those connection types are all built in, with a lot of them being pre-built adapters ready to go. And then, of course, those other endpoints can return data back through CLOVER to Innovator as necessary, and that might include part BOM cost status, inventory levels, those kind of things. So that's at a real high level. As we continue down these Tech Tuesdays, since we're going to be doing them regularly, I mentioned, I'd love to get into some of the underlying architecture, some of the roadmap. I have things to share that we can talk about. I'll give you an example. So, we have a CLOVER upgrade pending that's doing 100% data encryption of data at rest. So, to better protect data even on-prem. So, we're always adding features, adding new libraries, adding things to the roadmap. We have a product roadmap. I'd be happy to have some of those discussions on what's next in our product set. And would love to get into some of the more technical architecture if this wasn't quite a deep enough level. But I'll take any questions now. I didn't use up all the time, and then we can wrap up.
Great, thank you, Tim. Appreciate you sharing that information on the CLOVER platform, and look forward to future Tech Tuesdays. So if anybody has any questions, please enter them into the panel. It looks like we have a few questions for you, Tim. The first one, can CLOVER also work with custom revision schemes? By default, Aras supports major revision and has a generation counter. What if I would use a more complex revision scheme like major, minor, third revision? Can I execute different actions based on the type of release?
So you can, that's kind of a point question. You need some structure in the Innovator data model to support that, I'm assuming. But once the data is presented to CLOVER, we can make interpretations on on that data and do whatever you need, whether that's push data back into PLM or push data down to ERP. This happens a lot with revisioning because ERP systems typically don't like revisioning. They're a latest only kind of environment, most of them, and so we're always looking at effectivity and what to do with materials handling and those kind of things when revision changes. So as you're building your revision schemes, and no two seem to be alike, we can interpret that data and help take additional action in PLM or downstream to other systems. Hopefully that answered the question.
Great, thank you, Tim. Looks like we have another one here. I have an old ERP system that we have been using for years. It's built on top of an old SQL database. Is integration possible?
It is. I can say we can connect again with the core of Clover being .NET. Anything you can write in .NET allows you to connect to anything. So most SQL databases have some type of data connection that is .NET based. I think pretty much every one of them, even going back to like btrieve and things, there are connect parameters that allow us to connect to pretty much anything.
Okay, perfect. Which might it leads us into another question here. We would like to connect to a couple of different systems and get reports of the data from those systems. Can Clover platform generate these type of reports?
It can. So that sounds like a BI type scenario where you want to leverage Innovator or an external reporting system. Innovator uses SQL Server reporting services, which is great. So it's not uncommon for us to collect data from other systems, merge it into the data model in Aras Innovator so that it can be exposed through SQL Server reporting services or other reporting mechanisms. So it's a little more challenging when you're triggering those events or triggering the data from those other systems, making sure that you're building those reports out of ERP or those types of things that Clover can pick up to get the data that's needed to parse it and push it to your BI reporting system. But all that can be done.
Okay, perfect. So I think that we can probably take one more question, and then after that, we'll need to conclude. So, Tim, this is the last one. How do you handle integration as business systems are upgraded or changed?
That's a good question. So, having Clover in the middle makes, I won't say it's easy. It's never easy when business systems change, but having Clover in the middle lets us keep a running job going, implement the new system, define the interface, and then switch over with essentially one click of a button. It's actually one change of a parameter. So as those systems change, we can pre-test the interface that was already written, make sure it still works, and then when it's time to go live, instead of having a multi-day or multi-week project to write another integration or generate another integration project behind it, you can just simply switch over the job when the new system goes live, whether that's through a system upgrade or a brand new system.
Okay, perfect. Sounds like there's a lot of great questions, and although this may conclude our Q&A session today, I want to thank everyone for your participation. I want to thank Rodney and Milan and Tim. These are all great questions, and look forward to our next section. And if for any reason we didn't get to your question today, someone on our team will get back to you as soon as possible. I know there was also a question, Rodney, for you really, and you can talk about that in your final comments, but some people were wondering if and when the Aras Razorleaf user conference would be kicking off. So I'm going to hand it back over to you, Rodney, for final comments and announcements. And thank you again, everyone, for your participation.
Thanks, Kristen. Yeah, so just interacting, like Kristen said, you know, I'll answer that question on this slide here. So we're going to continue with the Tech Tuesdays. We are going to reorg a little bit going into Q2. We just want to make sure that our Tech Tuesdays are always the week following a release date. So our next session will actually be on February 22nd, and then following that on March 15th. And the plan is to, you know, I'll announce every three the future 2 sessions here so that you guys can get those into your calendar. But we're going to keep scheduling those the week after the Aras release. And then for the Aras subscriber user group, we've talked to a number of subscribers. I believe we're going to have a survey out today or tomorrow just to pinpoint the time we want to do that. We're looking at a few different time slots, either during the day or we have talked about in the afternoon or evening sort of happy hour event. But the plan is to have that session for a few hours and cover topics directly fed to us from our subscriber channel. So I think the plan right now is to do those once a quarter. And again, we're going to focus on our Razorleaf subscriber base. And we'll probably have some customers present as part of those and whatnot. We have a couple small sessions leading up to that just to kind of prepare. But for now, we're going to keep that close to subscribers of Razorleaf each quarter. And then we're working on a possible in-person event for later in the year. Another thing to note is, you know, Tim did a good job kind of giving us a baseline for the Clover platform today. We wanted to get some general information out there, kind of inform our audience here about what that is. And then I think the plan is in the future on Tech Tuesdays, we will dive into specific integration topics or features with that time slot. So if you're on the call today and you have feedback, things that you would like to learn about integration, or if you're an existing Clover customer and you have questions about a specific feature functionality there, definitely feed those to us. Get those to myself or Kristen or even Milan if you're working with Milan. I know some of our subscribers are working with him now. Get those over to us and we will start to drive those into these sessions. We want this to provide valuable information for you. So your feedback is definitely wanted. And I think lastly, the other thing we have going on is somewhere in the course of February, we're still trying to pin down a date. But I know a lot of you have set in on individual I'd say individual webinars around the Clover Collected product. We are going to do, we've probably done, I think, 3 or 4 of those for individual customers. We're going to go ahead and do a mass audience webinar around Clover Collected, just to give everybody a good baseline, see the features, functionalities, purpose of that tool. So like I said, we've had, you know, a lot of success with early adopters around that tool. We're pretty excited about it. We're seeing a lot of customers get a lot of value out of it. So we're going to do a more mass market webinar on that coming up as well. So always welcome to feedback. You know, we want to keep doing this, make it valuable for you. So if there's things you like, things you'd like to see changed, definitely get that out to us. So with that, I think we're all good. I'd like to thank Milan, Kristen, Tim for coming and spending part of their day with us. I know everybody's pretty busy right now. With that, I will thank you all for attending, and we'll see you in 6 weeks. Thanks.